breaks out, and the technologies to be most utilized, like air warfare in World War I and tank warfare in World War II. In World War III, it's going to be. Sorry, I'm talking a lot. World War III is going to be drone warfare, cyber warfare, and I think those are the two major things. Oh, and biological warfare.
Right. Well, one of the things that I often hear from people who still insist on the idea that the United States and the West has the technological advanced, they're more technologically advanced than, say, countries like Russia and China, right? We've already seen a lot of this play out in Ukraine. Where did you see the most successful Russian advances? It wasn't when they were using old styles of warfare, when they were trying to bring in the tanks like it was World War II. That's in fact one of the early on in the Russian-Ukraine conflict where Russia ended up receiving the most losses in that war. But when they started using a combination of small squad teams and drones as their mechanism to seize territory, right? And I think we're going to see something similar play out. And in the context of Africa, you're going to see how, frankly, Russia and China and I expect Iranian drones to also be utilized within Africa. We're going to see how much more advanced, frankly, the Chinese and Russian and Iranian drones are compared to the U.S. drone system. We've relied on our drone warfare for a very long time in the context of the so-called war on terror, right? But that's going to get blown out of the water now because our drones operate on a completely different level. It's large drones that come in and launch, Tomahawk missiles or other types of missile weaponry, right? But you can't bring something like that in with air support. So that forces the United States to try to use some of their smaller drones, and effectively, Russia, Iran, and China just have better small drones than the United States does.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Iran, because when you see that Iran can help these smaller militaries keep up the battle for aerial supremacy. America has had aerial supremacy forever, like since the end of World War II, and that's critical in maintaining that's how you shock and awe a country. That's how you collapse a government, is you send in planes to firebomb a city from the air. You firebomb their state capital from the air, and so that they have no place of operations to run their government. And you have this drone warfare and drone swarms now that can be created that can help combat a lot of that this drone warfare from the United States' side. It completely shifts equalizes the balance of power, like you said. So
yeah, I think that I think it's beyond equalizing, because then you also have to look at this part too. The U.S. doesn't have the industrial capacity to supply African forces with the amount of drones necessary to compete with Russian, Chinese, as well as Iranian drone forces too, right? So it's not just a conversation of China, Iran, and Russia having the more advanced technology when it comes to small drone warfare. It's also the fact that they have more ability to put out more of these drones, right? So, and that brings the next conversation, which is where I've seen the United States make some large leaps. We haven't seen really it be implemented. This might be the first war zone we see American droids used in warfare, which I think that's going to be
droids.
Yes, droids. Yeah, okay, so the United States has been using droids for reconnaissance missions, for example. We also have seen droids being used in particularly for civilian activities, right? The police in the New York City with the NYPD, when they had a apartment building that collapsed. They used a droid to go in and pretty much like make sure that there was no one inside of the collapsed parking garage, right? Now that's like civilian use, but the U.S. Government has been experimenting with putting weaponry on these droids, and I think it's only a matter of time until we start seeing, droid warfare being implemented. And I don't think they have the industrial capacity to really put out these droids, but I do think it might be the beginning of, if the United States starts doing it, you might see a snowball where China, Russia, and other countries start investing more in this technology so they can outcompete the United States when it comes to droids as well.
That's interesting. Droid,
so it's very early stages.
I said cyber warfare was going to be a major capacity under which we fight World War III. Droid warfare is terrifying. Consider the rise of the AI computers taking over the droids and just like having robot dogs roaming the.
Well, one of the things you have to remember when it comes to the droid warfare and all that stuff, right? You don't have to have a draft anymore. If you have the manufacturing capacity and the raw materials necessary, why is the United States onshoring a lot of these computer chip manufacturing jobs? I don't think it's to supply American consumers. I have a feeling it's more connected to the military industrial complex, what Joe Biden's trying to push, right? Well, we won't have to install a draft. We won't need U.S. soldiers. What's that? We can't get soldiers to join the U.S. military anymore? Oh, we'll just have droids do all of our warfare. We don't need the human population to be involved with our wars anymore. We'll just have droids and drones, and that's it.
I mean, the people building those things in Boston Robotics are all Chinese kids. It's just the Chinese building it, and they're just gonna take all that research and just take it. Like we have no capacity to make that in the United States. It'd be cool if we did, but we don't. So here's where will what does when we think of cyber warfare, we think if China and Iran and all these have drone, it can level the playing field with drone warfare and droid warfare on the ground. But the U.S. will rely on a lot of cyber warfare, which increasingly it can't do because we're getting hacked by the cartel. That's a story for another stream. Expect that to look it up. Look up cartel hospital hack. A lot of hospitals in the United States got hacked by the cartel, so that's a thing. But what does cyber warfare look like in physical space? It happens in space, like where satellites are, where you can, like with Elon Musk putting up Starlink. So the Space Force is going to have a lot to do with being able to put out the satellites that we're going to need to keep communications online for the Pentagon to be able to communicate with the U.S. troops in Niger and all that. So I don't know. If you have droid warfare and increased mobility of Elon Musk helping the Pentagon ship a lot of assets into space, space battles are coming back. World War III is going to be in space, is what I'm trying to say. Which, if I had to die in a horrible, pointless war on the moon, fighting a Gundam, freaking awesome.
As you can see now, we see it's like freaking Star Wars. We have ships flying around in the space and shit. We're fucking shooting the Death Star out of the goddamn sky. It's just gonna literally be we have tractor beams beaming people off the ground onto the ground.
It,
No more parachutes.
it'll be horrible. It'll be horrible. To be sure, it'll be the opening scene of Saving Private Ryan, of like these young farm boys just like dying on the beaches of Normandy, crying and having their heads blown off, but in space with like these huge lasers and having these mech suits ripping each other in half, like the same sort of like awe-inspiring madness, the same sort of like Book of Revelation style destruction that World War One and like chemical warfare wrought on the population, but like with space lasers. Like this is some serious shit.
Who needs nuclear bombs when you can just shoot a laser from space?
But you can just go full Dr. Evil. China can do that. They have their electrical battery. Like fuck green energy, but China's ability to make batteries is good enough where their electrical batteries, and props to Elon Musk for making an electrical car that's actually like good. But there's only so much that that battery capacity has. There's only so much that's done in the United States. The Chinese have made electrical batteries that can fly planes. And that's powerful enough that you could shoot lasers with it. You could put that battery on a satellite and just have a space laser. An Akira-style space laser. Like, the U.S. has no hope. If we've gotten to... The MJ Anti-Imperialist Party asked a while ago, so is how can they win? How can the U.S. win with so many fronts? That's like mentioned about Rome and anti-German Germany overextending. The U.S. can't win. It can't win. Like, the U.S. has not won anywhere where Wagner has deployed its forces. Not in Syria, not in Ukraine. It's not going to win against China's capacity to make space lasers. And if
absolutely not.
And I support China's right to have space lasers. You can't be a sovereign nation without them. I want Niger to have space lasers.
You know what? We're going to see DPRK go on this. I mean, they were one of the few countries that were like, you know what? We're gonna get nuclear weapons, and then now they have nuclear weapons. Their next goal has to be space lasers. DPRK space lasers.
Kim Jong-un needs a big red button to deploy a hyper beam firing from his moon base.
Well, the funny thing is, in China, I've actually seen some of the laser technology on, TikTok and stuff like this. And it's not just like cutting like metal and precious gems at this point. They have freaking laser cannons that they're shooting from a distance that they're using to cut down like these massive ass trees. Okay, now imagine they scale up that model. They could do that. Cool. I mean, it's not that far away. We are talking like the Third World War is going to be, crazy stuff that's going to be implemented technologically.